Good evening and welcome to the channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5.
And that includes for Europe.
Donald Trump has said he has been told the killing in Iran has stopped, but the US president has not ruled out military action against the country over its violent crackdown on anti-government demonstrators. According to human rights groups, more than 2,400 people have been killed in the recent crackdown by the Iranian authorities in response to the protests. Mr. Trump's comments came after the US and UK both reduced the number of personnel at the Al Udeid airbase in Qatar. Iran's airspace was closed to nearly all flights for 5 hours overnight, with several airlines announcing that they will reroute flights around Iran.
We've been told that the killing in Iran is stopping, and it's stopped, and it's stopping. And there's no plan for executions or executions. So I've been told that a good authority. We'll find out about it. I'm sure if it happens, we'll all be very upset.
A 15-strong French military contingent has arrived in Greenland's capital Nuuk, as several European states send soldiers there as part of a so-called reconnaissance mission. The deployment, which will also include personnel from Germany, Sweden, Norway, the Netherlands and the UK, comes as US President Donald Trump continues to press his claim to the Arctic island. The movement of military personnel comes after Denmark and Greenland's foreign ministers travelled to Washington for a meeting with US Vice President J.D. Vance.
We have to respond to this. We have the longest-lasting diplomatic relation with US that any US ally has. There's clearly a disagreement. We agreed that it makes sense to try to sit down on a high level to explore whether there is possibilities to accommodate the concerns of the president.
Logistical problems have delayed voting in Uganda's presidential and parliamentary elections in many parts of the country amid an internet shutdown. There was growing frustration among voters queuing at some polling stations in the capital Kampala, although voting does now seem to be underway in most areas. The delays of up to 4 hours have been blamed on failures of biometric identification kits, which some have linked to the network outage, as well as a lack of equipment in some places. The electoral agency has apologised for the so-called technical glitches and said officials were working to resolve them. Ukraine has declared a state of emergency in the country's energy sector, with a particular focus on Kyiv as ongoing Russian strikes continue to leave thousands of residents without power. President Volodymyr Zelensky accused Moscow of deliberately exploiting the harsh winter conditions as part of its war strategy, with overnight temperatures in Kyiv dropping to around minus 20 degrees. The declaration comes as Zelensky's US counterpart Donald Trump said he was holding up efforts to secure a peace deal to end nearly 4 years of war with Russia.
I have communicated with the Workers' Party MPs.
Singapore's leader of the opposition in Parliament, Pritam Singh, has been stripped of his title by the Prime Minister following a vote by lawmakers. The vote took place on Wednesday in Parliament, which is overwhelmingly dominated by the ruling People's Action Party. The move follows Singh's conviction for lying under oath to a parliamentary committee. Singh has consistently maintained his innocence. He remains a member of Parliament and Secretary-General of the largest opposition party, but will lose privileges such as additional allowances and the right of first reply during parliamentary debates. Australia's Great Ocean Road, famous for its scenic coastal views, has been forced to close after flash floods triggered by a storm hit the state of Victoria. Aerial footage showed vehicles being swept out to sea by floodwaters. The Victoria State Emergency Service issued an emergency flash flood warning and urged people to take shelter.
Having spent 165 days aboard the space station,
and 4 astronauts evacuated from the International Space Station have landed back on Earth after their stay in space was cut short by a month due to a serious medical issue.
And it looks like our first crew member,
The crew's captain, NASA astronaut Mike Finke, exited the spacecraft first, smiling and wobbling slightly on his feet. It is the first time astronauts have been evacuated due to a health issue since the station was put into Earth's orbit in 1998. The team, known as Crew 11, will now receive medical checks before being flown back to land after the splashdown off the coast of California. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the channel's studios in Lagos.